Hi, welcome. So we're going to try and record a tarot reading tonight. The upstairs neighbors are being a little bit loud, so we'll see how it goes. But welcome. Hi, kitty. Princess Pearl the Benevolent is here with us, of course. She looks miserable, but she's purring like crazy, so welcome. My name is Andrea. If you don't know me, I am trained as a therapist. I work as a coach. I'm a professional tarot and oracle reader. I'm also a professional DJ. I know I always point that way in case you don't know. That's like DJ equipment. Not just randomly pointing off that way. Yeah, so I do many things, but welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. We are going to do a tarot and oracle reading. I had a few different channeled messages that came through earlier today, and sadly, I did not write them down. Hi, buddy. No, you're not going to come up here. Sorry, just one second. Sorry, bub. No. Sorry. There you go. Anyways, yeah, so I had a few other channeled messages, but sadly I didn't write them down, and sometimes they just straight out of my head. So, we are going to use the cards instead. Let's see what we've got. Let me know how your day is going. I'd love to know who you are and what you're up to. Yeah. It's funny, I felt, ouch, oh my goodness, me. I felt really drawn to use the Star Child Tarot. I don't know if they make this one anymore. It's really beautiful, this deck. Kind of goes with my nails. But I find this one actually kind of hard to read. The images are not exactly like the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So this one's tricky for me to read, but for some reason I keep getting drawn to it recently, and then there's a part of me that's in resistance to it because I'm like, ah. It makes me feel like I have to read very slowly. I'm like, what is this card again? But we're going to use that one. And then, I don't know, I'm feeling this purpley theme. So we've got the Soul's Journeys lesson card, Soul's Journey lesson cards. I don't know why that's so hard to say. These ones, and then we're going to use the numerology guidance cards. These decks aren't necessarily the most exciting ones in the world, but they're very potent in terms of their messages, and I think that they're helpful to create a foundation for what our reading is going to be all about. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the Soul's Journey cards right now. As I said, say hello in the comments. I love to hear how your day is going, whatever time you find this. Love to hear who you are, how you're doing, what's going on for you. And yeah, if you want your own reading, you know where to find the information. Oh my goodness. Oh. All right, the first card we got is health. This is super duper important. So talk about foundations, right? You might be feeling like you've strayed a little bit from your fitness regimen. Okay, never mind. I just heard the word no. It might be more like you've either strayed from it or you're still on board with your health regimen, but you're not seeing the results that you want to see. Maybe you are someone who's on a fitness journey with an intention of losing weight or putting on muscle or whatever it may be. And although that can be healthy, I think potentially we're getting a little bit misguided here, where it's become more about, I feel like you're being very self-critical, and we're kind of losing track of the fact that it's about health and longevity, not just about our physical appearance, which is fine if that's a motivating factor. It is for most people when they're going on a fitness journey, or you're shifting the food that you're eating. But I think we need to bring a little bit of balance and a little bit of kindness and compassion and humanity into it for yourself. Because as long as you have self-trust, you can be compassionate with yourself without falling into old patterns. But it's when you don't have self-trust that we get afraid of bringing in that kindness and compassion when we've fallen off of the regimen or whatever it may be, because then without that self-trust, we feel like we're going to lose all of it, all the progress, when that's not true. It could literally just be one day of not hitting your goals or whatever it may be. So that's quite specific to someone. So if that's coming up for you, let me know. Yeah, the self-esteem card, and it actually came out in reverse. These cards are actually quite beautiful, though. Self-esteem. So it says, I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. Yeah, when you have self-esteem, when you are feeling good about yourself and you really honor the gifts that you have, then you're able to show up in the world with confidence and give those gifts openly and with generosity. Even if it's your business too, that's fine. It doesn't have to be for free, but it's like being brave enough, being confident enough to show up and offer what it is that you have. If you don't have self-esteem, if you're not loving yourself, if you're not feeling that what you have to offer is worthy, why would you show up? And you can't get to any level of success without doing that, without putting yourself out there. You have to do it in order to see any returns either. That also seems very specific. I don't know who I'm talking to in this collective, but it also, comes out with the health card. So there is some sort of self-criticism that's coming up for you about your physical appearance. Maybe a part of it is needing to strike a balance between, giving yourself more credit when it comes to, your appearance. Maybe you're like, we're not seeing ourselves clearly right now. And then also needing to recognize the importance of other qualities, right? I'm not trying to breeze over physical appearance and say that it's not important, because if it's important to you, then it is important, right? It's to each individual. It's up to them how much importance they give each of these factors and facets of your being. But there needs to be a balance where you're also acknowledging all the other amazing things about yourself. And this is not meant to be cheesy, kind of rah-rah pep talk. This is actually serious. You do need to give yourself, like, maybe taking an inventory, right? Taking an inventory of maybe some of the health goals that you have met before, or the ways in which you're striving, like you are getting the ball rolling if you're in the beginning of that journey, or you're recommitting to it. But your self-esteem needs to be built upon, it seems, for whoever you are, very basic building blocks right now, which is proof. When it comes to manifestation, when it comes to building a different life for yourself, which is a lot of what this channel is about and is going to be about, we walk in faith. We walk with trust. We walk with the assumption that what it is that we desire is not separate from us. It's just we're attuning ourselves to the identity, the frequency, the mindset, the consciousness of the person who has that thing, right? If you're not giving yourself some sort of tangible proof right now, it's going to be difficult for you to get much further than that. It's like walking in faith and having trust and being able to move forward without any evidence in the external world, and your 3D is how you bridge the gap between, like, having never manifested something before and then getting to that point where it feels inevitable. We have to bridge that gap. The person I'm talking to right now may have experience with manifestation in that regard, but I'm picking up on someone who's like really, really struggling just to, like, it's hard to do advanced manifestation when you're in a state of self-rejection. I'm hearing self-rejection, and that is a very difficult place to be in. So I'm sending you lots of love and compassion, and I'm encouraging you to look for practical signs, proof, the history, the receipts of things that are really admirable about you. And you might have to ask other people, not everyone around you, but people who are closest to you. Maybe you have a best friend, or you have a close family member, a peer who you can ask if you need some reassurance, if you're just not seeing yourself clearly. That can happen sometimes when maybe we're on the struggle bus. We need someone to reflect it back to us and remind us, like, well, you did this thing and not a lot of people do that. That's really brave, but you don't think it's brave because it's normal to you. You did this nice thing for somebody else and you just never gave yourself credit for that. There are people who can reflect this back to you when you don't see it. Much of the time, the things that really ought to be building our self-esteem are things that we don't give ourselves credit for, because in some way, those things are normal to us. We don't think that they make us exceptional, but that's because we're not seeing ourselves through the eyes of another, and other people aren't you. They don't have the same qualities. So they're probably going to value much of the things that you consider to be normal. They're going to consider those things really out of this world, really amazing. But I can understand why it might be difficult to see those things about yourself. So if we're starting kind of from the beginning and we need to lay the foundation, find someone who you're comfortable talking to about this. Let them know that you're potentially having trouble seeing, your best qualities, and ask them what it is that they see in you. That could be helpful. Another tool that you can do to build this up is to actually do like higher self journaling. I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but I find this was a piece of advice that I was given several years ago by a friend, and I really love the practice, which is when you're journaling, you can write something down, even if it's negative. Ideally, we're moving away from negative thinking because it's not in service to the life that you want, but we don't do toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing here on this channel. We are not about that. But you can write something down, and then you wait and hear, and then write the perspective of your higher self, or your guides, or your angels, or your ancestors, whatever feels resonant for you. But it's like a call and response. You can ask a question, and then you are your own channel. I might be channeling some things for you, but ultimately everybody is their own channel. You just have to open yourself up to it. I think maybe that's something that needs to happen, having a conversation between you and yourself. You can ask a friend, but I would hazard a guess that you will actually be able to create a pretty comprehensive list of things that can build up your self-esteem. I don't even think that it's not like you have no self-esteem. I think maybe I'm just talking to someone who's in a wobble moment. Like maybe you're finding this just at that moment. You're like, man, I really need a pep talk. I just need to find some stranger on the internet to give me a pep talk. Like that might be it. Okay, I feel like these cards were done here. So let's go to the next deck. Use the numerology guidance cards. I hope that it turns around for you. I'm fairly confident that it will, but yeah, just, oh my gosh, I almost dropped them all on the floor. That would have been exciting. Okay, one more shuffle. The thing is, you can't hate yourself into self-love if self-love is your goal. You can't be mean to yourself or like drag yourself into change. You can't reject yourself into self-acceptance. Like that just doesn't work. And it gets exhausting. I did a video about this a while back on my coaching Instagram when I was back in London. And it was just about the reality that at a certain point, self-hatred becomes exhausting. We have a negative bias as a survival mechanism. If we assume that the shoelace, because we're not sure, out of the corner of our eye, if we assume that it's a snake and we jump out of the way and then in hindsight recognize that it was a shoelace, we can laugh about it. But it's better to do that than to step on the thing that could have been a shoelace and it turns out it was a snake. Like our survival mechanism as animals is to have a negative bias. Now that unfortunately shows up in our self-talk now, as we move through our society and we're slightly more sophisticated than when we were cave people. And that means that we can be really unkind to ourselves. And so if you are wanting change, you need to understand that no type of self-development, therapy, coaching, transformational work, identity work, nothing will actually stick in the long term until you learn to accept yourself as you are now. And forgive the past. Those things have to be the foundation for change. And until you really do the work of doing that, basically being okay with where you are right now, even though you know you're going to change, being able to accept your current situation, even though you're still striving for changing things. If you don't take care of the foundations, anything that you try to build on top of it it's not going to be stable. It will crumble because it has a rotten core, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you're rotten. I'm just saying like the foundation can't be built on rotten wood. It's just a metaphor for self-rejection and yeah. Okay, so you got card number 9, which is completion of a cycle. The card says completion. This for you is you recognizing, perhaps just in this moment, or maybe it's been on your mind for a while, that you are done. We had a reading, I think it was yesterday, where we got the 10 of Swords, which to me is the done like dinner card. One of my favorite tarot readers on YouTube, and I wish I could remember her name. It was such a long time ago. I used to watch her almost every day. But she would call it the stick a fork in me, I'm done card, and I loved that. I just thought it was the funniest thing because it brings a little bit of humor to this, oh my gosh, I'm so over it. And it's funny that we say that, I'm so over this, when we're actually in the struggle and the suffering. I don't know what it is about these, like, I think it's because I like count on my thumb first. I'm a hand talker. But when we're in the struggle, when we're not over it at all, we're very much in it, we can use that phrase, that saying, oh my God, I'm so over this. Perhaps it's a good thing that we say that, because it is hinting to our subconscious that we are about to get over this. Like, go for it. Keep telling yourself that. But you are very close to, if not right in the middle of, a completion. It's like getting to a point where you're so sick of the old pattern. Ooh, yeah, itchy nose. Ooh. You know you're channeling when? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ugh. They say you're channeling when your nose gets really itchy. Yeah. You're just up to here with it. Like, I'm done. But it's coming from this point of such incredible self-rejection and frustration. It might have to do with health and fitness. It definitely has to do with self-esteem. But there's this self-judgment that you're indulging in to a certain extent. And I'm not saying that to guilt trip you, like we all do it. It's that negative bias. But you're starting to get so close to this next level of awakening, which is going to change everything for you. And so the resistance kicks up, the old identity kicks up. It's going to tell you the most ridiculous things. I had a gremlin, call him a gremlin. I had a gremlin come up, this like negative voice come up for the past week or so that was telling me all sorts of stuff about why I shouldn't film content, why I should not be on camera, that I'm not made for film. I have a voice that's too, I don't even know. It's like, you do not have a voice for a podcast. You don't have a voice for radio. It's too high. It's too nasally. And then, it's, oh, you're ugly. Like, is that helpful? No. Is it true? No. Is it moving me towards my goals? No. So what is it doing? Like, how is that serving me? It's protecting the old identity. It is keeping that version of me safe. But you know what it's also doing? It is keeping the new version of me from stepping into the life that I truly desire. The desires on your head and your heart that you really, really deeply desire, like your truth. Those are the visions of the future for your authentic self. So everything else has to go. The problem is when you have been living a different identity, one of illusion, one of projections of other people, society, your parents, your peers, partners, whatever, you carry that and you internalize that, and it like metaphorically crystallizes into an identity. But it's one of, and we did talk about this in the other reading, we got the oppression card, which is one that's unique to this deck. That feeling of oppression is coming from different parts of you. So I put therapist hat on for just a second. Also, these readings are not a replacement for therapy, just to be clear. But there's something called internal family systems, IFS, which is a psychological intervention, which basically works, it's a fancy name for parts work, where you identify the different cast of characters that lives inside of you. You have many different roles that you play and that exist within you. And they butt heads really hard when you're about to make really significant change in your life. So if you feel like absolute garbage right now, if it's really painful and you're really struggling with self-criticism, I want you to know that you are not backsliding. In fact, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but roll with me. Oh, itchy. Oh, so itchy. Wow. That's why I always have a red nose. You are on the precipice of the next up level, like truly becoming the next version of you that with every version, with every level up, it's like you're getting closer and closer and closer to your authentic self through showing up differently. And there's something so potent about the way that when we shift our energy first, when we tap into that authenticity, to that identity, that next layer, the truth of who we are, how everything slowly but surely, or sometimes instantly, starts to change around us. That is manifestation. It's when you start to finally focus, not in like a self-absorbed way, not in a way that it's a detriment to your relationships. That's not what I'm talking about. But becoming self-aware in a way that's no longer critical. And instead it's self-aware in a way that allows you to be mindful of what identity are you currently in, what level of consciousness, what mindset, what frequency, like what is your outlook, what's your attitude. All of that is dictating your reality. That is manifestation. It starts within. And that's so itchy. That is something that once you know that, it almost allows moments like this when the self-esteem is just in the toilet and we're really, really beating ourselves up. It allows you to look at that part of you running its mouth and just going, see what you're doing. See what you're doing. You can identify the pattern, and instead of having another inner critic come in and beat you up for having that pattern in the first place, instead you can just look at all of this and go, you're just trying to protect me from something that you don't know how to handle. It's never been within your experience. The things we're trying to manifest that seem really scary and we get blocks around, we only have those blocks and they only seem scary because the version of us that we've been playing for a really long time has never had that experience before. So it's afraid that it's either not going to exist anymore, that it's going to be irrelevant, or it's just afraid that it can't handle the things that you actually desire. So then there's work to be done there about how to work with that part of you to either integrate it completely, let it dissipate, release it, cut cords with it, however you want to manage it. But ultimately, your frequency, which is your identity, your level of consciousness, your opinions, your beliefs, your decisions, outlook, all of those things. That is what has to change first in order for you to get what it is that you want. And you are so close. You just have to choose it. Now, here's another thing. You can't really rush it. It's a weird thing where you can choose at any moment. If you engage with the correct type of consciousness within yourself, you can simply choose to let something go. However, for the average person, it takes time. But you might not be the average person. You might watch this, see this card, and go, it is complete. I am done with that identity. I am no longer going to indulge the inner critic that is impacting my self-esteem. I will no longer consider myself bad or wrong for having, fallen off the horse with the gym or eating a thing that you categorize as bad food, which, by the way, is a really not healthy approach to food. There's no good, there's no bad. They're just different energy content and different nutrient content. And if you can look at it that way, it makes navigating your nutrition and your food intake much more manageable. Why do I keep shuffling cards upside down? So strange. If this is resonating with you, if it's making sense to you, if you're vibing with it, feel free to like, subscribe. I think you can hit the notification bell and then you get notification when I upload. Totally up to you. I don't know. Do what feels right. Follow your bliss. Oh my gosh. Health. Just looked at the bottom of this deck. That's wild. Oh my goodness. Okay. There is something about your health. Maybe this is coming to completion because you've eradicated some sort of health issue. And if that's the case, congratulations. That's amazing. But you may have also just come to a point where you've completed the avoidance phase and you're like, okay, it's time to change. And it's no longer going to be about Like, you're no longer going to let your health and fitness dictate your self-esteem, because here's the harsh truth. You will fall off the horse. It took me a really long time as a person who has had disability, chronic illness, a lot of health challenges. Ooh, big burps now. Okay, we're really channeling. It's just energy moving. To get to a point where I could identify as a gym girly or a gym lady. Like, it took a lot for me to like move through really intense chronic fatigue and a brain injury to get my butt to the gym. And even then I wasn't really doing much. You know, walking was my thing. I would lift like soup cans at home until I was finally ready to set foot in the gym. And then it was shifting my self-concept to be a gym goer. I also stopped going. I traveled, and then the gym moved locations, and I personally have not been in a while, so I do home workouts. But it doesn't mean that you, if that's also happened to you, it doesn't mean that you're no longer a gym person. If you let every setback influence your self-concept, and all of a sudden you're like, well, it's like when a kid does something wrong. A healthy kid is gonna receive, the being, told that was not good. One child with a healthy self-concept is gonna go, oh, I did something bad. Whereas a child who doesn't have a strong sense of self or a healthy self-concept or has very little self-esteem is going to internalize that criticism as, I am bad. Or like, this project failed versus I failed. It's like I fell off the horse, or I'm no longer a gym person. Like, we don't say that. What does my mentor say? She's like, you're all free from this. Delete. Don't let that enter your subconscious, right? Don't take that on. And don't speak to yourself in that way. The more you speak to yourself in that way, the more programming the more you're programming your subconscious mind. This is the thing. The subconscious is not as woo-woo as people think. I was talking to a woman. I randomly met this lady down by the ocean where I live, and she was walking her cats. One was on a stroller and one was on a leash. And I was like, man, I wish I could train my cat to do that, but she will not have it. Definitely not. But I was telling her about how I'm so interested in learning about the subconscious mind, because it actually is the control center and dictates in between 80 to 90%, if not maybe even 95% of our functioning. Our conscious mind controls a very limited amount. And like, this is a hill that I don't even like to say this is a hill I will die on. Like, this is the hill that I will sit on until the bitter end, because it's true. Your subconscious is not as like weird and woo-woo as you think. It literally thinks it's functions of your brain, very scientific, that you're just not aware of. It's not in your conscious reality. It's unconscious, but you can bring it into consciousness, right? But it's important, the words that you speak. So when you speak to yourself, the language that you use, like, words are spells, words are placing an order, words are vibration or frequency, words are establishing or emphasizing the message to the universe, to the world around you, which is essentially made of vibration. All particles, everything around us, when you get to the itty bitty little quantum level, everything's just vibrating. It's all just vibing. Right? We still experience it as the material world. This table feels very solid, it's like, if you get really, really tiny, it's vibration. So the things that you speak, the things that you program yourself with, it's like it's like casting spells with your mouth. It's like casting spells with the words that you speak. It's like putting in your order with the universe, because what you say is getting like imprinted on your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind isn't like necessarily projecting through your spidey sense out to the universe. So I think there's starting to be some research on that kind of stuff. But instead of like assuming that it's like mind control of the universe, it's mind control of yourself. You're just not aware of it. And it dictates how you show up in the world. And then that dictates what happens around you. So if you want the things around you to change, you want to speak kindly to yourself so that your behaviors, most of which is unconscious, is still in service to you living the life that it is that you want. That seemed like an important channel. Anyways, this is clearly about health for somebody. I don't think we're going to get into the tarot because I'm already at 30 minutes right now, but I want you to do your very best to focus on health instead of focusing too much on like the aesthetic. It's okay to desire to look a certain way, but ultimately there can be people who look the way that you want to look, the way that you desire to look, who are tremendously unhealthy and they don't have longevity. And as you start to get older, longevity is the name of the game. That's what you want, right? It's super important. So be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness. I think this is just a message from Spirit, the divine, the great spaghetti monster in the sky, whatever it is you resonate with. But the completion with the self-esteem is just like, knock it off. Like with peace and love, bring it to a close. Bring this era of your life, which may have been almost your entire life up until this current moment, of you being unkind to yourself because you are letting things around you, which includes your external, you're letting that dictate how you live your life. Get out there. It's like when people say, oh, I need to have a beach body by summer. Girl, guy, human, alien, you got a body, go put it on the beach. You have a beach body. It's hard. I know that. But you need to decide that it's easy. That it's easy to accept yourself. You need to decide that that is the reality that you live in. You need to decide that I no longer tolerate speaking unkind words to yourself. You are the person who gets to close that cycle. You're the person who decides when it stops. And it can feel relentless. It can feel like your brain and your body are a battlefield. It's so challenging. I'm not trying to like bypass that or take that away. It's valid. And you, it was 32 on my timer there. It is you that chooses the completion of the cycle. It really is. And that can feel difficult in this moment, but I want you to flip your perspective on that. In knowing that you're the one that has to end the cycle, you can reframe that as you are the one that gets to end the cycle. You are the one that can, and you are the one that will. It's up to you, but that means that the power is in your hands. You no longer have to feel disempowered by your thoughts. Now, this may take some practice. If you've had a brain that has been mean to you for a really long time, science does show, neuroscience does show that physically, not just energetically, but physically, there's little tendrils with the neurons, which are the type of cells that you have in your brain. They have little tendrils that create bonds to one another, physical attachments. And when the impulse, the signal in your brain of a certain thought that you've thought many, many times happens often enough, those connections become much stronger. So it may take some time of almost like, it can feel like sort of forcing, it's like brainwashing yourself into believing a new thought. At first, it's going to feel really clunky. It's going to feel like it's not real. It's going to feel like it's not true. You got to push through with it until that starts to be stronger than the other thought. And then literally those connections will start to prune themselves. They start to fall away because they've weakened, right? It's like a muscle that eventually, if you don't use it enough, it will atrophy. It'll just get kind of like wobbly and noodly and not very strong anymore. So these physical phenomena, these little tendrils that have created, they're just holding on to each other. They've been holding on for a really long time. Give yourself grace as you are you are. That's more final. You are changing your thoughts and you're growing new neural networks. That's what that's called, new neural networks within your brain, and letting the old neural network start to fall away. It's basically like starving it. You just don't feed the thing that you don't want to give it your energy and your attention anymore. So start today. That is the initiation into completion. I love you so much. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next one.